All right, so I am getting this started. I thank everybody for being here. The couple of topics that I did want to cover this week and talking about both the challenges of the small business, which almost everybody here represents small businesses, right? I mean, we either work for ourselves, we are actual business owners, entrepreneurs, or we work for small businesses. A couple of things to really, and again, the library of information that I've provided, the facts over the last 8 months. And if you saw one of the videos earlier this week, I talked about the fact that I am not crazy. I held the belief that all of our small businesses were being put under unnecessary duress because of what was referred to as a pandemic. And what was my basis for that? My basis was and my mother used to say, well, you know what they say? And I would ask her, well, who are they? Well, they are the people that have the platform to be able to say certain things to us. They told us that we needed to lock down travel. We needed to lock down the country in March to flatten the curve for just 2 weeks. And now it's been 10 months because this virus hit our shores in January 17th, the first diagnosed confirmed case of COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 in the United States. And yet, what is the truth? And I was stating, because I'm a reasonable, rationally thinking person, I was stating that this had to already be in our shores. Why? Because there was evidence of this virus in China in December. People were dying from it. So what does that mean? That means that people travel from China to America every single day. It was already here. What is the confirmation now? The confirmation is that when they're looking at blood samples, and actually the confirmation was already there, nobody was talking about it, because it would have enlightened us to believe that, wow, we're creating a mountain out of an anthill, and what we have allowed our elected officials to do is create a mountain range out of an anthill. What's that anthill? That anthill is a legitimate respiratory pathogen that is killing the old and the weak, the people with 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot on a banana peel, the people that were dying anyway. And I'm not saying that I'm a heartless son of a gun. What I'm saying is that we need to really reflect on who is dying and what they're dying from. Because what has happened, the law of large numbers tells us that heart disease was the number one killer in the United States for years upon years upon years. What is the only thing that is one of the things that's reducing in the number of deaths is heart disease has gone drastically down. Have we stopped selling cigarettes? No. Our elected officials have never cared about the health of us. They keep selling cigarettes. And as it was mentioned this week, churches are closed, but gentlemen's clubs remain open. My point is this: that pathogen was here, and we have now reports of the blood samples with the antibodies already in the blood samples in December. Think about that. Think about December, the antibodies were already in the blood. What does that mean? That means it takes weeks for your body to develop the antibodies. That means the pathogen was already here in America in November and maybe even earlier. Why is it that they would not disclose this information until after the election? Well, because it was very much part of the narrative. Now, why does this matter to small businesses? It matters to small businesses, and if anybody watched David Morris, I'm giving a shout out to David Morris. He owns a coffee shop, I believe, in Portage, Michigan, and he interrupted a live broadcast 2 days ago from a Grand Rapids newscast and said, listen, folks, we got to stand together. We got to stand together and we have to unite. Because here's what I'm asking. I realize that when the city of Lapeer restaurants and bars were going to say, you know what? We're going to stay open. And then they were contacted by the State Liquor Commission and said, if you want to stay open, your liquor license is suspended. The state liquor license has already suspended that license for certain businesses that they found to be, how shall I say, breaking the executive order. The executive order, by the way, which has already been ruled as unconstitutional by the Michigan Supreme Court. So the challenge is, as David Morris is talking about, does the virus just not exist at Walmart, at at these big multinational corporations? Does the virus cease to exist after the hours of 8 to 4? Because now you notice that there's COVID hours. You can only go up and visit your loved one in the hospital between the hours of 12 and 4, or between the hours of 2 and 6. Somebody creates a number. It's about control, and all of this has always been about control. If you look up the Great Barrington Declaration, more than 50,000 educated, reputable doctors have signed this already and said, lockdowns don't work, masks don't work. If you want a social distance, that's fine. That's fine for you. You cannot make me be held against my will. I am an American citizen. I have rights. It starts with the Constitution. What if, and I'm just asking, if every restaurant, if every Elks Club in the state of Michigan with a liquor license said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and open. Do you think for 1 second the state of Michigan would suspend everybody's liquor license and not generate that revenue from that taxation on liquor? We're out of our minds. But instead, what is always the game plan? It's to divide us so that you can conquer us. In this room, people voted for Biden. In my family, people voted for Biden. I'm okay with that. That's your choice. In this room, people wear masks. I'm okay with that. I saw Barry yesterday at Kroger. I'm the only one in Kroger while I was there yesterday not wearing a mask. Some woman had an issue with that. That's her choice to have an issue with it. Please don't try to hold me against my will. I'm now taking my hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars a month in my grocery expenses. I left Meijer and now I'm at Kroger. Why? Because Kroger's not making me, not telling me I have to. Because guess what? And I've said this before, it's kind of funny, but think about how true this is. If a pair of underwear and a pair of jeans will not hold a fart in, do you think for 1 second that face diaper you're wearing is keeping the virus from getting to you or you giving it to somebody else? It's not. And there is so much medical information about that, so many studies, but nobody in mainstream media wants to talk about the Denmark study on masks. And there's been many others. Folks, the medical profession goes into a surgery, a sterile environment, wearing a surgical mask so that they don't spit or in talking spread a germ. That's understandable. But on the box itself, it says it will not keep you from getting or giving COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. And yet they're littering our parking lots. Where are the environmentalists that want to decide this is bad for the fish, bad for the birds? Some little birdie's going to get his neck caught in these things. I don't doubt that it is happening. But again, the number one thing that had to happen was you had to get bad Orange Man out. You had to get new, good, old Whitey in. That's what the narrative was telling you. And why is that? Because, folks, the war is not what you see, whether it's Black Lives Matter and racial discrimination in our streets, whether or not police brutality has unknowingly or knowingly treated somebody different than somebody else. That's not the war we're fighting here. The war we're fighting is a globalization, a reset from the global currency. And who suffers the most in that? Small businesses. Small businesses that are cash-based. The war on cash has become ever more increasing. And that small business war on cash, the war on small business and the war on cash, is going to come to a head. It's happening right now. And if you are not willing to recognize that, there is a real war going on, and really decide that we need to do the next right thing. What is the next right thing? The next right thing ends up being that our state legislators have a constitutional responsibility, and each one of us has a responsibility as being part of this society. So please, don't try to shame somebody else for not wearing a mask. If you decide to wear a mask, that's fine. Please don't try to hold me against my will. We do need to patronize our local small businesses. And we also need to make sure that we recognize the war that we are in. This is not hyperbole. The actions that have been taken by certain people in our country, patriots, I might add, are in the face of overwhelming obstruction. Where is that obstruction from? Well, a free and fair election. You can say that there is mounting evidence that the Democratic National Party has participated in a fraud against the citizens of this country. You can say that the Republican Party, the never-Trumpers in the Republican Party, and probably 30% of the elected Republican office holders today are not speaking out specifically against this fraud because maybe they've been tapped. I'm going to say this. What would it have mattered if John James did not concede to Gary Peters until December 15th? Does it matter to anybody? Would it matter in the big scheme of things? It matters to me, and I'll tell you why. Because what you've just done is you've said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to concede. This has been a free and fair election. I'm going to protest, my own little protest, that John James, I'm going to speculate right now. I don't have any fact, but I'm going to say he was tapped on the shoulder by the Republican Party and said, you're going to be a superstar. Why do I believe that? Because I've seen people on national television that are old school, and I have my doubts about whether or not they really support this president. Republicans saying this guy is going to be a superstar in the Republican Party. You have to remember, the Republican Party and Donald Trump are not the same thing. Donald Trump was a very large Democratic donor for years. And that's why when people attack Lin Wood for being a Democratic donor in the past, I don't care. Leo Terrell, a Democratic, one of the great civil rights attorneys in our nation, is now supporting Donald Trump. Why? Because he sees the truth. He sees that the man has been tested and he has proven himself worthy for a time such as this, to be the patriotic, to be the constitutional executive of this nation. I do get excited and I do speak passionately. And my apologies if I've offended anybody in this room. However, your worldview and my worldview should be based on fact and not based on some sort of a cult, some sort of a predestined suggestion of what the truth is. The reason why I bring up when did COVID-19 hit our shores is because they told us it was a pandemic in March. They told us that if we didn't shut down, 2.5 million people were going to be dead. They told us that it was only going to be for a couple of weeks to flatten the curve. They continued to create more and more restrictions. I'm a law of large numbers guy. I got that from my insurance background. What does the law of large numbers tell us? The law of large numbers is incredibly accurate. That's why insurance actuaries use the law of large numbers in how they decide things are going to be paid out. What does the law of large numbers tell us? If you take a look at the deaths per 100,000 that are accredited to COVID-19 in Argentina, it's almost identical to that of the United States in its entirety. Why is that important? Because what Biden's incoming COVID-19 guru from Minnesota is suggesting is that a 6-week hard lockdown in this country is necessary to eliminate this scourge, this pathogen. He's lying. How do I know he's lying? because Argentina's already done it for 8 months. And they have almost identical deaths per 100,000 accredited from COVID-19. And Sweden has not. And they have less.
They've already done a hard lockdown? Or
No. Lockdowns, mass, it doesn't matter. It's all of these little mandates, all of these rules. So as a country,
Argentina, has that been a hard lockdown?
Argentina had a hard lockdown. One of the most aggressive lockdowns of any country on the planet, and yet their deaths per 100,000 is almost identical to America, which certain states didn't lock down hard. Sweden had a very relaxed. Remember what I told you before. Jay Badarakia is he's an MD from Stanford. He was on one of the national shows last night. I read his article in Imprimis. It was fantastic. The Great Barrington Declaration. You need to look it up. Here is what the biggest point of that is, that the pathogen cannot be eliminated. It only delays the inevitable. And that's why when I say, who is it killing? It's killing the people with 1 foot in a grave, 1 foot on a banana peel. It's killing people with underlying comorbidities that you could die tomorrow. You just didn't know it today. So he also states a fact, and that is herd immunity is not a pandemic strategy. It's a scientific fact. And we have been lied to. We have been lied to on so many levels about so many things. All I'm asking everybody to do is do their own research. And because everyone here is either their own small business owner, their own they're an entrepreneur, or they're a decision maker for a small company. I gave you the stats this week earlier in the video. During this period of time, in the first little bit of the lockdown, Americans had the highest rate of unemployment. We lost, middle and lower income America lost the most money, and yet the billionaires in this country increased their net worth by $292 billion. Throughout this entire 10 months, in this calendar year, the billionaires in this country have increased their net worth almost $1 trillion, and yet every one of us are not farther ahead. And as I'm sitting here next to a gentleman who works in the heating and cooling business, who would typically not be, not working, why are people not getting their furnaces fixed right now? They're letting that rattle in their system go until it breaks. They'll open the oven door and turn the oven on until the governor says it's safe to have a service tech in your house. I'm telling you, that's happening right now. This is just one example. He's not an anomaly. And so the other thing that we have that's happening is that this David Morris in Portage that was on the news last night, he makes a great point. People can leave Portage, drive 45 minutes to an hour across the Indiana state line and eat normal meal and then drive home. If every one of the small businesses that have a liquor license in the state of Michigan said, we're together, I don't care if you voted for Trump or Biden, this is our livelihood, it's at stake. If you want to come into my restaurant, you want to wear a mask, that's fine. It don't work, and the scientific data continues to prove it. But we're going to serve the food and we're going to sell alcohol. They can't possibly give up that tax revenue. If Patriots united over what is right, we can live the life we want to. I'm going to end with this. The things that are happening with this election, when people continue to tell me it's over, the process, we've never seen this voting process handled this way. There is record amount of pressure for every one of these states to certify their elections. Why? If you have nothing to hide, why do you care if it's certified already? If you have nothing to hide, states on a regular basis haven't certified their electoral votes until December 10th, 12th, 13th. That's happened on a regular basis for years. Why are you causing so much concern right now if you have nothing to hide? And obviously, it's not nothing to hide. We have video evidence of multiple ballots being run. You have witnesses who have sworn testimony in front of the Michigan House and Senate this week who are mocked by careless lawmakers. Folks, I'm telling you, pay attention to the lawmakers in the state of Michigan and how they've acted during this time. Not just Democrats, but not the least of which are the Republicans that are supposed to be doing the next constitutionally correct thing. I love our country. And if you didn't see the video this morning, please watch it. Look up Walter E. Williams. He passed away on December 2nd. I have enjoyed his reading. I wish I would have met that man. I hope I get a chance to shake the hand of Thomas Sowell and Clarence Thomas before their passing. These are things on my bucket list. These are people that I've looked to and read and really appreciate their truth and their integrity in what they said. This is a reminder. I first got my first reading of Thomas Sowell in the Flint Journal years ago. They used to publish his syndicated column. The day they stopped publishing Thomas Sowell is the day I canceled my subscription. Now, I'm not saying, because shortly thereafter, the Flint Journal is no longer an actual newspaper. It's only MLive or whatever you call it now. But I'm not saying I was the catalyst, but I'm saying it's stuff like that that has probably led a lot of us to seek an alternative opportunity for what is really happening, what the truth is. But Thomas Sowell's best friend for 50 years was Walter E. Williams. And I would encourage everyone to look up and pay tribute to Walter E. Williams by reading some of his articles, because they're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. And I'm just going to close right now and open this back up to an open forum. I appreciate everybody being here, and I appreciate your time. And because I've taped this, I'm simply going to say, for now, I'm James Detroit, and I'm out.